The year is 2025. Donald Trump is back in the White House. His return has sent shockwaves across the globe, but nowhere more so than in Canada. Trump's America First agenda has returned with a vengeance. Protectionist trade policies are once again the order of the day. This has put immense strain on the Canada-US relationship, a partnership once considered unshakable. Trump's tariffs have targeted key Canadian industries. A 25% tariff on Canadian goods has disrupted supply chains and hurt businesses. The threat of a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum looms large. This aggressive posture has forced Canada to reevaluate its long-standing alliance with the United States. The relationship is at a crossroads. Adding fuel to the fire, Trump has repeatedly suggested incorporating Canada as the 51st state. This proposition, while seemingly outlandish, has deepened anxieties in Canada. It underscores a growing sentiment that the US under Trump no longer views Canada as an equal partner. The situation has reached a boiling point. Canada finds itself at a critical juncture. It must chart a new course, one that prioritizes its own economic and political interests. This has led to an unprecedented development. Canada is looking across the Atlantic for new alliances. As the relationship with the US frays, Canadians are increasingly looking towards Europe. The European Union, with its commitment to multilateralism and rules-based trade, represents a stark contrast to the unpredictable nature of the Trump administration. This sentiment is palpable both in public opinion and in the halls of power. Recent polls paint a clear picture. Canadians are warming up to the idea of closer ties with Europe. A significant and growing percentage of Canadians view the EU favorably. Support for joining the EU, while still a minority position, is steadily on the rise. Social media reflects this trend, with pro-EU hashtags and groups gaining traction. This shift in public opinion is mirrored in the political sphere. Prime Minister Mark Carney, a staunch internationalist, has made strengthening ties with Europe a cornerstone of his foreign policy. His first official trip abroad was to Europe, where he met with key EU leaders. This symbolic gesture sent a clear message. Canada is serious about deepening its relationship with Europe. The reasons for this European embrace are multifaceted. Beyond the immediate need to diversify trade partnerships, there's a growing sense that Canada's values align more closely with those of Europe. The EU's commitment to social justice, environmental protection, and multilateralism resonates deeply with Canadians. While the idea of joining the EU has gained traction in Canada, the path to membership is fraught with legal and logistical challenges. The Treaty on European Union, the cornerstone of the bloc, outlines specific criteria for accession. These criteria pose significant hurdles for Canada to overcome. Article 49 of the treaty stipulates that only European states can join the EU. This geographical limitation is the first and most obvious obstacle. While Canada shares cultural and historical ties with Europe, its physical location on the North American continent presents a significant barrier. Further complicating matters is Canada's non-membership in the Council of Europe. This body, responsible for upholding human rights and democracy in Europe, is a prerequisite for EU membership. Canada's absence from this key institution adds another layer of complexity to its European aspirations. Despite these challenges, some legal experts argue that political will can sometimes trump legal hurdles. They point to the accession of Cyprus as a precedent. Despite its geographical location in Asia, Cyprus was granted EU membership due to its close cultural and historical ties to Greece. Whether this line of argument could be applied to Canada remains to be seen. Beyond the legal hurdles, Canada faces significant economic adjustments if it were to join the EU. The Copenhagen criteria, a set of economic and political conditions for EU membership, requires aspiring states to meet stringent standards. One of the most significant challenges lies in aligning Canada's economic policies with those of the EU. The EU's single market, a cornerstone of its economic integration, necessitates the free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. This would require Canada to harmonize its regulations on trade, agriculture, and labor with those of the EU. The agricultural sector in particular presents a major challenge. Canada's system of supply management, which protects domestic farmers through production controls and import tariffs, is incompatible with the EU's common agricultural policy. This difference could prove to be a major sticking point in any negotiations for EU membership. Furthermore, joining the EU would require Canada to adopt the euro as its currency. This would mean relinquishing control over its monetary policy to the European Central Bank. This prospect is likely to generate debate within Canada, with some questioning the potential impact on the country's economic sovereignty. Despite these challenges, EU membership also offers significant economic benefits. Access to the EU's single market, the largest in the world, would provide Canadian businesses with a significant boost. Reduced dependence on the US market would also enhance Canada's economic security. Beyond full membership, exploring alternative paths to integration. Given the significant hurdles to full EU membership, Canada is also exploring alternative models for closer ties with Europe. These models offer varying degrees of integration, each with its own set of advantages and disadvantages. One option is the UK model, based on the trade and cooperation agreement signed between the EU and the United Kingdom after Brexit. This model prioritizes economic cooperation while allowing for greater autonomy on political and regulatory issues. Another possibility is the Swiss model, which relies on a series of bilateral agreements between Switzerland and the EU. This approach allows for a more tailored relationship, but it also means that Switzerland does not have a say in shaping EU rules and regulations. Finally, there's the Norwegian model, where Norway is part of the European Economic Area, or EEA. This grants Norway access to the EU's single market but requires it to implement EU regulations without having a vote on their content. Each of these models offers a different path for closer EU-Canada ties. The choice ultimately depends on Canada's willingness to balance the benefits of integration with the potential costs of surrendering sovereignty. A New World Order strategic implications of a closer EU-Canada bond. The potential for closer EU-Canada ties has significant strategic implications, both for the two actors involved and for the broader geopolitical landscape. For Canada, a deeper relationship with Europe offers a much-needed counterbalance to the unpredictability of the United States under Trump. By strengthening ties with the EU, Canada can reduce its economic dependence on the United States and diversify its trade partnerships. This would give Canada greater leverage in its dealings with the United States and reduce its vulnerability to American pressure. For the EU, welcoming Canada into its fold would be a major coup. It would bolster the EU's global standing and demonstrate its continued relevance in a world increasingly defined by great power competition. The addition of Canada, a G7 country with a strong economy and a commitment to multilateralism, would be a significant boost to the EU's international weight. Moreover, closer EU-Canada ties would send a strong message to the United States. It would signal that the EU is not afraid to forge new partnerships, and that it is willing to stand up to American unilateralism. This could potentially encourage other countries to follow suit, further diminishing American influence on the world stage. Charting a new course: Canada's evolving international strategy. The exploration of closer ties with the EU marks a significant shift in Canada's international strategy. For decades, Canada's foreign policy has been defined by its close relationship with the United States. However, the return of Trump and his disruptive policies have forced Canada to rethink its traditional alliances. Canada is now pursuing a more independent and assertive foreign policy, one that prioritizes its own national interests and values. This new approach is evident in Canada's willingness to challenge the United States on trade, its commitment to multilateralism, and its pursuit of new partnerships with like-minded countries. The potential for closer ties with the EU is a key element of this evolving strategy. By strengthening ties with Europe, Canada is not only diversifying its partnerships but also aligning itself with a bloc that shares its values and its commitment to a rules-based international order. This shift in Canada's foreign policy is likely to have lasting consequences. It marks a departure from the country's traditional reliance on the United States and signals its intention to play a more active and independent role on the world stage. A transatlantic future: the potential of the EU-Canada relationship. The future of the EU-Canada relationship remains unwritten. While the path to full EU membership is fraught with challenges, the desire for closer ties is undeniable. The shared values, economic complementarities, and geopolitical imperatives all point towards a deepening of the transatlantic bond. Whether Canada ultimately joins the EU, pursues a closer partnership model, or maintains its current course, one thing is certain: the relationship between Canada and the EU is entering a new chapter. The coming years will reveal the full extent of this transatlantic convergence and its impact on the global order.